The locksmith was a chatty guy, mid-50s, belly straining against his work shirt, the kind of man who'd probably installed 10,000 deadbolts and had a story for every single one. I didn't mind. I was working from home that Tuesday afternoon, catching up on project bids while he replaced our front door lock. Standard security upgrade, nothing unusual. "Nice place you got here," he said, testing the new mechanism. "Real nice. You in construction?" "Commercial development," I said, not looking up from my laptop. "Thought so. Got that look about you. Military too, I'm guessing?" That made me glance up. 8 years, Army Corps of Engineers. He nodded like he'd won a bet with himself. "My nephew did 2 tours in Afghanistan. Something about the way you guys carry yourselves." He handed me the new keys, 2 of them, bright and freshly cut. "Here you go. Should work smooth as butter." I took them, already turning back to my work. "Thanks. What do I owe you?" $350 for the hardware and labor. Cash or card's fine." He started packing up his tools, then paused. "Oh, by the way, I already made keys for this address. About 3 months back. Your wife ordered a duplicate set." The words landed like a grenade with the pin pulled. I kept my face neutral. 12 years of marriage teaches you something. 8 years in the Army teaches you more. My fingers didn't stop moving on the keyboard, but I wasn't seeing the screen anymore. "Did she?" I said. Casual, conversational. "Yeah, September 14th, if I remember right. Pretty blonde lady, drove a white Mercedes. Victoria's car, Victoria's description." "That sounds like her." I saved my document with exaggerated calm, though I don't remember her mentioning it. "Did she say why she needed extras?" The locksmith shrugged, snapping his toolbox closed. "Didn't ask. People lose keys, give them to family members, all sorts of reasons. She paid cash, signed the receipt, standard stuff. You wouldn't happen to have a copy of that receipt, would you? For our records." He pulled out a worn tablet, scrolled through some files. "Sure thing, I can email it to you." I gave him my address and watched him send it. Then I tipped him $50, shook his hand, and showed him out with a smile that felt like wearing a mask made of concrete. The moment his van pulled away, I locked the door, the new deadbolt I'd just paid for, and walked to my home office. Closed the door. Sat down in my chair. 3 sets of keys existed now. Mine. Hers. And a 3rd set that I knew nothing about. September 14th. I pulled up my calendar, though I already knew what I'd find. Austin. I'd been in Austin for 4 days, chasing a commercial development bid worth $12 million. I'd won that bid too. Celebrated with my project team at a steakhouse while, apparently, my wife was ordering secret copies of our house keys. The email from the locksmith arrived. I opened it, stared at Victoria's signature on the digital receipt. V. Mercer, in her distinctive looping script. Who did she give access to our home? I sat there for a long time staring at that signature. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. Instead, I felt something cold settle into my chest. A kind of clarity I hadn't experienced since my last deployment, when the world simplified itself into mission parameters and survival. I didn't call Victoria, didn't text her, didn't do anything stupid. Instead, I started planning. The first rule of any operation: gather intelligence before you act. Victoria came home that evening around 7, breezing through the front door with shopping bags and a story about a difficult client. I listened, nodded, asked the right questions, kissed her hello like any other day. "New lock looks good," she said, testing it. "Very sturdy." "Figured it was time for an upgrade," I said. "The old one was getting sticky." She didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. Either she'd forgotten about the extra keys, or she was a better liar than I'd given her credit for. That night, I watched her sleep. The woman I'd loved for 12 years shared a bed with for 9. Blonde hair spread across the pillow, face peaceful in the moonlight. I felt like I was looking at a stranger. Wednesday morning, I went to work like normal, but at lunch, I made a call. Derek Sullivan answered on the second ring. Logan Mercer. Been a minute, brother. Too long, I said. You free to talk? For you? Always. What's up? Derek and I went back to Kandahar. Same unit, same firefights, same long nights wondering if we'd make it home. He'd gotten out 2 years before me, started a private investigation firm that had done well for itself. We grabbed beers every few months, traded war stories, complained about civilian life. He was the closest thing I had to a brother. I need your professional services, I said. It's personal. Silence for a beat. Then, how personal? Victoria personal. Another pause. I heard him close a door on his end. Tell me. I told him about the locksmith, the keys, the September date when I was out of town. I kept my voice level, clinical, just the facts. That's thin, Derek said when I finished. Could be innocent. Could be. That's why I'm calling you instead of a divorce lawyer. What do you want? Full surveillance package. I need to know who, how long, and how deep. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize to her with roses and feel like an idiot. If I'm right? If you're right? I watched a construction crew across the street, men in hard hats building something that would last. If I'm right, I want to know everything before I make a move. No surprises. That'll take time, week or two minimum. I've got time. I've apparently had less than I thought, but I can wait a little longer. Okay, brother, I'm on it. Starting tonight. After I hung up, I sat in my office and started my own investigation. Not the surveillance stuff. That was Derek's expertise. But there were things I could check myself. Credit card statements first. Victoria and I had joint accounts for household expenses, but she had her own cards too. I had access to everything. We'd never had secrets. Or so I'd thought. Nothing unusual jumped out. Same stores, same restaurants, same patterns. She was careful. Cell phone bill next. Her number showed regular calls and texts, but nothing that screamed affair. No mysterious numbers appearing repeatedly. Either she was innocent, or she was smarter than most cheaters. Then I remembered the home security cameras. We had 3 of them. One covering the driveway, one on the front porch, one watching the back gate. I'd installed them 2 years ago after a string of break-ins in the neighborhood. The footage was stored on a cloud server, 30 days automatically, but I'd paid for extended storage because paranoia is a hard habit to break. I started with September, right around the date on the locksmith's receipt. It took me 2 hours to find it. September 15th, 9:47 p.m. The day after she'd ordered those keys, the night before I flew back from Austin. A dark sedan pulled up to the curb, not in our driveway. Just sat there for a moment, headlights off. Then a figure got out, walked up our front walk, and entered our house with a key. My key. The camera caught a partial face in the porch light. Male. Tall. Something familiar about the posture, but I couldn't place it. He left at 4:23 a.m. using the same key. I went through more footage. Found 3 more instances over the following weeks. Always when I was traveling. Always arriving after dark, leaving before dawn. Always that same dark sedan parked down the street. I saved all of it. Backed it up to 3 different locations. Then I cleared my browser history, closed my laptop, and went home to have dinner with my wife. You seem quiet tonight, Victoria said over salmon and asparagus. Everything okay at work? Just a lot on my mind. The Henderson project is hitting some zoning snags. Poor baby. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You work too hard. Maybe, I said, but someone has to pay for this lifestyle. She laughed, and I smiled, and we were the perfect picture of a happy couple. The kind you'd see in a magazine ad. The kind I'd thought we actually were. Saturday night, we attended the Ashford Foundation Charity Gala. Victoria's parents, Benjamin and Caroline, hosted it every fall. A chance for the wealthy elite of our city to write big checks and feel good about themselves. I'd been attending these things for over a decade now, long enough that I almost felt like I belonged among the old money and inherited privilege. Victoria was in her element. Gorgeous, in an emerald dress that matched her eyes, working the room like the politician she could have been. She'd grown up in this world, knew its rules instinctively. I was just the construction guy who'd married into it, tolerated because I'd made enough money to be respectable. "Logan, good to see you, son." Benjamin Ashford approached with a scotch in each hand, offering me one. He was 72, silver-haired, with the kind of distinguished bearing that came from a lifetime of people agreeing with everything he said. "Benjamin, great turnout this year." "Caroline's doing. She's got a gift for this." He lowered his voice. "How's the Henderson project? I heard there were some complications." "Nothing we can't handle. Should break ground by December." "Good, good. You know, I was talking to some friends about your company the other day. Lot of respect for how you've built things up." I caught the subtext. I was good enough for his daughter because I wasn't a failure. My net worth was my permission slip to remain in the family. "I appreciate that," I said. Victoria appeared at my elbow, slipping her arm through mine. "Daddy, stop monopolizing my husband. There are people I need him to meet." She led me away, and for the next hour I played the dutiful spouse. Shook hands, made small talk, pretended to care about yacht clubs and charity boards. Then I noticed Victoria's body language change. It was subtle, a slight stiffening of her shoulders, a microsecond where her smile flickered. She was looking across the room at something. Someone. I followed her gaze. A man stood by the bar, early 40s, dark hair going gray at the temples, angular face that looked like it had been in a fight or two. He wore a decent suit that didn't quite fit the room, more off the rack than bespoke. A woman stood beside him, thin and pale, with a silk scarf covering what was obviously a bald head. I knew him. It took me a moment to place the face, but I knew him. Detective Nathan Cole. He'd come to my office 6 months ago, asking questions about a subcontractor who'd been accused of embezzling from one of our projects. Routine interview, nothing serious. I'd answered his questions, provided some documentation, and never thought about him again. But Victoria had stopped by that day. Brought me lunch as a surprise. She'd been in the lobby when Cole was leaving. They must have crossed paths. I watched her now, watched the way she deliberately didn't look at him. That told me more than if she'd stared. "Honey," she said, "are you listening?" "Sorry, got distracted. Who did you want me to meet?" She led me to some investment banker whose name I immediately forgot. But I kept Cole in my peripheral vision the rest of the night. Him and his wife, the woman with the scarf, the woman who was clearly fighting something serious. When we got home, I helped Victoria unzip her dress, kissed her shoulder, told her I was tired. "Me too," she said. "Rain check?" "Of course." I lay awake until 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, thinking about a detective at a charity gala with his cancer-stricken wife, while my own wife pretended not to know him. The following days tested every ounce of discipline I had. Thursday night, Victoria wanted to go out for dinner. "That new Italian place downtown," she said, scrolling through reviews on her phone. "Everyone says the pasta is incredible." So we went. Sat across from each other in candlelight, ordered wine, talked about nothing important. She looked beautiful. She always did. Blonde hair swept up, emerald earrings I'd bought her for our anniversary, that smile that used to make my chest tight. Now it just made me wonder if she'd smiled that way at Cole. "You're staring," she said, touching her cheek self-consciously. "Do I have something on my face?" "No, just thinking how lucky I am." The lie came easily. Too easily. Maybe I'd learned more from her than I realized. Charmer. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I love you, you know that? I know. Did she? Did she love me while she was planning to gut me financially? Did she whisper, I love you to Cole in that hotel room, room 214, before or after they betrayed everything we'd built? I squeezed her hand back, smiled, ordered dessert. When we got home, she led me to the bedroom with that look in her eye. I played my part. Made love to my wife while thinking about evidence folders and prenup clauses and the exact temperature of revenge. Afterward, she fell asleep with her head on my chest, and I stared at the ceiling until dawn. Derek's preliminary report came on day 10. We met at a diner far from our usual haunts, the kind of place where nobody would recognize either of us. He slid a manila envelope across the table, his face carefully neutral. You were right, he said. I wish you weren't. I opened the envelope. Photographs. A pretty blonde woman entering a mid-range hotel outside of town, the Ridgewood Inn, according to the sign. More photos of her leaving, sometimes hours later. Timestamps and dates. Room 214, Derek said. She books it under the name Linda Foster, pays cash. They know her there, but they don't ask questions. Who's she meeting? That's where it gets complicated. He pulled out another photo, grainy, shot from a distance but clear enough. A man in a baseball cap, face partially obscured, walking toward the hotel's back entrance. He's careful, uses the back parking lot, keeps his head down. But I got a plate number. And? Derek's jaw tightened. The car is registered to the city police department. It's an unmarked detective's vehicle. I felt that cold clarity again, spreading through my chest like ice water. Nathan Cole, I said. Derek looked surprised. You know him? He interviewed me 6 months ago about one of my subcontractors. Victoria happened to be at my office that day. I studied the photo, trying to make out Cole's features under the cap. She met him in the lobby. That must have been when it started. I can dig deeper, get more on Cole, find out exactly how long this has been going on. Do it. But Derek, I want to know everything, not just the affair. I want to know what they're planning. Planning? I thought about Victoria's behavior over the past months, the little comments about our relationship, the way she'd been confiding in her friends about being unfulfilled, the careful positioning. She's not stupid, I said. If she's cheating, there's a reason, and I want to know what it is before I make my move. Derek nodded slowly, processing. You know, most guys in your position, they'd have already done something stupid, kicked down doors, made threats. You're not most guys. I was trained to assess before engaging. Emotion gets people killed. This isn't Afghanistan, brother. No, the stakes are different, but the principles are the same. I gathered up the photographs, slid them back into the envelope. In combat, you don't attack until you know enemy positions, strength, and intentions. You don't win by being angry. You win by being prepared. And what does winning look like for you? I stood up, tucked the envelope into my jacket. I'll know when I get there. The next week, I researched Nathan Cole like he was a target in a hostile zone. Public records told me the basics. 43 years old, 20 years on the force, decorated twice for valor. He'd made detective at 35, worked his way up to major crimes. Good reputation among his peers, or so the newspaper articles suggested. Social media filled in the personal details. His wife Allison was a middle school English teacher, or had been, until the cancer diagnosis 18 months ago. They had a daughter, Emma, 16 years old. Cole's Facebook was sparse, but Allison's told a story. Fundraisers for cancer research, posts about gratitude and fighting spirit, photos of her with a silk scarf covering what was obviously chemotherapy-induced baldness. The same woman I'd seen at the charity gala, standing beside her husband while he carried on an affair with mine. I thought about Emma Cole, 16 years old, watching her mother fight for her life, trusting her father to hold the family together. What would it do to her when she found out? What was already being done, day by day, lie by lie? This wasn't just about Victoria and me anymore. Cole had collateral damage too. Derek dug deeper into Cole's finances. The results were damning. The detective was living beyond his means. Nice car, expensive suits, a boat he barely used. He'd taken out a second mortgage 6 months ago, right around when the affair started. Where was that money going? He's got a separate account, Derek said during one of our briefings. Opened under his mother's maiden name, deposits of cash every few weeks, withdrawals for hotels, restaurants, jewelry. Jewelry? Yeah, nothing huge. A few hundred here and there, but it adds up. Gifts for Victoria. Paid for while his wife was drowning in medical bills. What about Victoria's friend? I asked. Rachel Webb, her business partner. Can you get anything on her? Already did. Derek slid another folder across his desk. Rachel's been covering for Victoria since the beginning, providing alibis, backing up stories about client meetings and girls' nights. They text constantly, and the texts are interesting. I opened the folder. Printouts of text messages, obtained through methods I didn't ask about. Victoria. Can you tell Logan I'm with you tonight if he asks? Rachel. Of course. Where are you really? Victoria. Meeting N, the usual place. Rachel. Be careful. He's getting suspicious. Victoria. He doesn't suspect anything. Too busy with work to notice. I read that last line 3 times. Too busy with work to notice. That's what she thought of me. A workaholic husband too oblivious to see what was happening under his own roof. She wasn't even scared of getting caught. She was confident in my blindness. You okay? Derek asked. Fine. I closed the folder. What else do you have on Rachel? Nothing useful for your case. She's clean, just loyal to the wrong person. He paused. There is one more thing, though. About Victoria. Tell me. Derek hesitated, unusual for him. I found evidence of another relationship, 2 years ago before Cole. Guy named David Whitmore, real estate agent. They met at some industry event, kept it quiet for about 4 months. The room went very still. How quiet? Hotel rooms, same pattern as now. She ended it before you could have noticed. Far as I can tell, no one knows except her and Whitmore, and now us. 2 affairs. The first one ended, the second one planned to end our marriage. Does Whitmore still live in town? Yeah, he's married now, got a kid. Probably sweating bullets hoping this never comes out. Derek shook his head. Victoria's good at this, Logan. Too good. This isn't amateur hour, she's got a pattern. A pattern. Not a mistake, not a moment of weakness. A pattern of betrayal and deception that stretched back years. I thought about our marriage, about all the business trips and late nights and times I'd trusted her implicitly. How many others had there been? How many secrets was she carrying? It didn't matter, not anymore. What mattered was that I now understood exactly who I was dealing with. Stay on her, I said, and stay on Cole. I want to know when they're planning to meet next. What are you going to do? I'm going to be patient, and when the time comes, I'm going to destroy them both. Week 3 brought the worst discovery yet. Derek had managed something borderline illegal, audio from one of Victoria's hotel meetings. He played it for me in his office, watching my face as Victoria's voice filled the room. Once I get my share of the assets, we can figure out the rest. He doesn't suspect anything. I've been laying the groundwork, telling everyone we've been having problems. When I file, no one will be surprised. Cole's voice, lower, harder to hear. And you're sure about the prenup? I signed it 12 years ago. I barely remember what's in it. But it can't be that bad. We've been married almost a decade. We should get a lawyer to look at it. Quietly. I will. After the holidays. Give it a few more months, then I'll file in the spring. By summer, I'll be free. Derek stopped the recording. I sat there, hands flat on his desk, staring at nothing. You okay, brother? I wasn't okay, but I wasn't broken either. I was something else, something harder. Something my enemies in Afghanistan would have recognized. She's not just cheating, I said. She's planning to take everything I've built. My company, my assets. She's been setting this up for months, playing the victim so no one will question it when she leaves. Looks that way. I stood up, walked to the window. Downtown spread out below us, buildings I'd helped construct, a city that had my mark on it. Pull everything on Cole. I want to know his vulnerabilities. And keep surveilling Victoria. I want every meeting, every call, every lie documented. What are you going to do? I turned back to face him. I'm going to win. My attorney's name was Harrison Blake, and his reputation preceded him. In high-asset divorces, he was the nuclear option, the guy you hired when you wanted to leave nothing standing. His office occupied the top floor of a glass tower downtown. Lots of leather, lots of mahogany, lots of subtle signals that said money lived here. So, Blake said, reviewing the folder I'd brought him, your wife is having an affair with a police detective. She's planning to divorce you, and she's been positioning herself as the victim for months. That's the summary, yes. He flipped through Derek's photographs, the printed audio transcripts, the timeline I'd assembled. And you want to know your options. I want to know how to destroy her case before she even files it. Blake leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. He was 60-something, with the sharp eyes of a predator and the well-fed look of a man who won far more than he lost. In this state, adultery can impact alimony and asset division. Not as much as it used to, but it's still a factor. With this level of evidence, documented, time-stamped, with audio, she's going to have a hard time claiming the moral high ground. He paused. Tell me about your prenup. We signed it 12 years ago. Standard stuff. She had nothing. I was already doing well. There's an infidelity clause. Blake's eyebrows rose. Section 8? I'd pulled the document before coming here. Any proven affair by either party results in forfeiture of alimony rights and reduces asset division to 30-70 in favor of the non-cheating spouse. She signed this? She was 23 and in love. She probably thought she'd never need to read it again. Blake smiled. Not a nice smile, but a professional one. Mr. Mercer, your wife made a very costly mistake. With this evidence and that clause, she won't just lose the divorce. She'll lose everything. There's more. I handed him another folder. Over the past 18 months, she's been moving money from our joint accounts into a personal account she thinks I don't know about. Small amounts, $500 to $2,000 at a time. She's accumulated nearly $40,000. Blake's smile widened. Marital asset fraud. That's going to look very bad for her in court. I also gave her a $50,000 loan to start her interior design business. There's a promissory note. She's never paid back a dime. Outstanding debt to the marital estate. Blake was practically rubbing his hands together. Mr. Mercer, I've handled a lot of divorces, but this might be the most one-sided case I've ever seen. Your wife is going to walk away with almost nothing. That's the idea. What about the detective? Do you want to pursue any action against him? I'd thought about this. No direct exposure. I don't want to look vindictive. It could complicate the divorce. But an anonymous tip to internal affairs about a detective using a department vehicle for personal affairs wouldn't go amiss. And his wife. She deserves to know, but that's not my responsibility. Blake made some notes. When do you want to move? Not yet. I want everything in place first. Every document filed, every asset protected, every angle covered. Then we hit her all at once. The element of surprise. I learned that in the army, I said. Never give your enemy time to regroup. The weeks that followed were an exercise in patience. I continued playing the happy husband, took Victoria to dinner, attended her design firm's open house, made love to her when she initiated it, though that was happening less and less these days for obvious reasons. All the while, I was quietly restructuring my holdings, moving assets into entities that would be harder to touch, documenting every contribution I'd made to our lifestyle, every investment that had come from my work rather than our marriage. Blake had a forensic accountant go through everything. The picture that emerged was stark. I'd built nearly everything we had. Victoria's contributions were minimal, some income from her design business, which I'd funded, plus her family's social connections, which couldn't be quantified in court. I also discovered that several of her biggest clients had come through my network. Other developers, business associates, people who'd hired her as a favor to me. When the divorce became public, those relationships would evaporate. Derek continued his surveillance. The affair showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, Victoria and Cole were getting bolder. They'd started meeting at a small apartment Cole had rented under a shell company, a love nest paid for with money that should have been going to his cancer-stricken wife's medical bills. "He's scum," Derek said, showing me photos of the apartment building. "I've seen a lot of cheaters, Logan, but this guy, sleeping around while his wife is going through chemo, that's a special kind of evil. And Victoria's right there with him." "Yeah?" Derek looked uncomfortable. "You sure you want to keep waiting? You've got enough to bury her 10 times over." "Not yet. I want to catch them together. Face to face. I want her to know that I know, and I want to see it on her face when she realizes she's lost." "That's cold, brother." "She made it cold," I said. "I'm just responding in kind." Day 43, a Wednesday in late November. I told Victoria I was flying to Denver for a project meeting. Kissed her goodbye at the door, just like any other business trip. "I'll miss you," she said. "Hurry home." "I always do." I drove to the airport, parked my car in long-term parking where she'd expect it to be, then took a cab to Blake's office. We spent 2 hours reviewing the divorce papers. Everything was in order, ready to file the moment I gave the word. Then I waited. At 7:45 p.m., Derek called. "They're at the hotel, room 214, like clockwork." "I'm on my way." The Ridgewood Inn was a forgettable place off the highway, the kind of hotel that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. I pulled into the parking lot at 8:15, spotted Cole's unmarked sedan in its usual spot behind the building. Derek was waiting in his car. "You sure about this? I can come with you." "No, this is personal." I walked through the lobby, past a bored clerk who didn't look up from his phone, took the stairs to the second floor, found room 214. I didn't kick down the door, didn't yell. I just knocked. Rustling sounds from inside. Then Victoria's voice. "Room service already? I just called." The door opened. Victoria stood there in a hotel robe, her hair disheveled, her makeup smeared. Behind her, I could see Nathan Cole scrambling off the bed, grabbing for his shirt. Her face went white. Actual white, like someone had pulled a plug and drained all the blood. "Logan?" My name came out as a whisper. "What? How?" I stepped past her into the room. It smelled like perfume and guilt. Cole was frozen in the middle of buttoning his shirt, looking at me with the wide eyes of a man who'd just realized his career was over. "Don't bother getting dressed on my account," I said. My voice was steady. I'd practiced this moment in my head 100 times. "Though I'm sure your wife would appreciate the effort. How is Allison, by the way? Still fighting that cancer?" Cole flinched like I'd hit him. Victoria had closed the door. She was pressed against it now, hands flat on the wood, like she was trying to hold something back. Or maybe trying to find the strength to speak. 12 years, I said, looking at her. Not at the woman I'd loved, at the stranger who'd been wearing her face. 12 years, Tori. This is what they meant to you? Logan, it's not. I can explain. Please don't. I pulled an envelope from my jacket and handed it to her. Divorce papers. Summary of everything I know. Dates, times, photographs. I've got audio too, in case you're wondering. Once I get my share of the assets, we can figure out the rest. Sound familiar? The color came back to her face. Not blood, but fury. You were spying on me. You were sleeping with a married man in our house, while his wife is dying. While you were planning to steal half of everything I've built. I turned to Cole. As for you, Internal Affairs is going to get a very interesting package tomorrow. Using department resources for personal affairs, conducting a relationship that started during an active investigation. How do you think that's going to play? Cole found his voice. You can't prove anything. I have photographs of your car at my house. I have photographs of you entering this hotel. I have audio of you and my wife discussing how to hide money from me. I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a nice smile. Your career is over, detective. The only question is whether you resign quietly or get dragged through a public investigation. Logan, please. Victoria stepped toward me, reaching for my arm. We need to talk about this. It's not what you think. What I think is that you've been planning to divorce me for months. I think you've been moving money into hidden accounts. I think you've been telling everyone we have problems so that no one would be surprised when you filed. I pulled my arm away. What I think is that you forgot about Section 8 of our prenup. Victoria's face changed again. Confusion, then dawning realization, then something like fear. The infidelity clause. Any proven affair by either party results in forfeiture of alimony rights and reduces asset division to 30-70 in favor of the non-cheating spouse. I recited it from memory. You signed it 12 years ago, Tori. I'm guessing you didn't read the fine print. That's not, you can't. I can. I have the best divorce attorney in the state. I have evidence that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. And I have 43 days of watching you sneak around with this piece of garbage while pretending to love me. I walked to the door. You have 48 hours to sign those papers. After that, I send everything to your parents, then to your clients, then to the press. You wouldn't. I stopped, hand on the doorknob. Try me. Cole had finally found his courage, or his desperation. Listen, Mercer, let's talk about this like adults. Maybe we can work something out. I turned, looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd sat across from me in my own office, asked me questions about embezzlement, shook my hand, and then started sleeping with my wife. Work something out, I said. Detective, in the past 6 months, you've used a city vehicle for personal trips to my house. You've conducted an affair with a witness's spouse during an active investigation, a clear ethics violation. You've rented an apartment under a shell company to hide your activities. And you've done all of this while your wife, your sick, cancer-fighting wife, trusted you to be faithful. Cole's face went gray. There's nothing to work out, I continued. Your career is over. Your marriage is over. The only question is how much dignity you want to preserve on the way down. You smug piece of... He took a step toward me. Victoria grabbed his arm. Nathan, don't. He's threatening us. He's not threatening, she said, and her voice was strangely calm now. Resigned. He's telling us what's going to happen. There's a difference. She got it. Finally, after all these weeks of arrogance and planning and thinking she was smarter than me, Victoria understood exactly how badly she'd miscalculated. Tori, I said. Her nickname. I hadn't used it since the night I found out. I meant what I said. Sign the papers. Take what the prenup gives you. Walk away quietly. And if I don't? Then I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you are. Your parents, your clients, your society friends. Everyone who's ever admired the perfect Victoria Ashford Mercer will know about the hotel rooms, the hidden money, the dying wife your boyfriend abandoned. I shrugged. I don't want to do that. It's messy and time-consuming and beneath both of us. But I will if you force me to. Logan. Her eyes were wet now, tears threatening to spill. 12 years, doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything, I said. That's why this hurts so much. I opened the door. 48 hours, Victoria. Don't make me destroy you in public. I walked out without looking back. Down the hall, down the stairs, through the lobby, got in my car and drove away. I made it 6 blocks before I had to pull over. Not to cry. I didn't have tears left for her. Just to sit there in the dark and breathe and feel the weight of 12 years crumble into dust. The next 48 hours were chaos. Victoria called 17 times. Left voicemails that ranged from pleading to angry to desperate. I didn't answer any of them. She showed up at my office on Thursday morning. Megan, my assistant, called me before she got past the lobby. Your wife is here. She looks rough. Tell security to escort her out. She's not welcome. There was a pause. Are you sure, Mr. Mercer? She's making a scene. I'm sure. I heard later that Victoria had screamed at the security guards, called them names, threatened lawsuits. They'd removed her anyway. Professionally, without laying a hand on her. Just like I'd trained them. That afternoon, I met with Benjamin Ashford. We sat in his study, surrounded by leather-bound books and family portraits, drinking scotch that cost more than most people's car payments. He listened without interrupting as I laid out everything. The affair, the fraud, the planning. I showed him the photographs, the transcripts, the timeline. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. You're sure about all of this? He finally said. There's no chance of a misunderstanding? I wish there was, Benjamin. But I have proof. Your daughter has been sleeping with a police detective for 6 months. She's been hiding money. She was planning to divorce me and take half of everything I've built. And you're going to fight her. I'm going to win. The prenup guarantees that. But I wanted you to hear it from me first, before it becomes public. Benjamin set down his glass. In that moment, he looked every one of his 72 years. I appreciate that, Logan. I know this must be difficult for you. It is. But I didn't come here for sympathy. I came because I respect you, and because I know how much your family's reputation means to you. I met his eyes. If Victoria signs those papers quietly, nobody else needs to know the details. It can be a private matter. Irreconcilable differences, no drama, no scandal. And if she doesn't, then I'll do whatever I have to do to protect myself, and that will be very public, very ugly, and very damaging to anyone associated with her. Benjamin's jaw tightened. That sounds like a threat. It's a statement of fact. I don't want to hurt your family, Benjamin, but I will not let your daughter destroy me to fund her new life with a man who cheats on his dying wife. The silence stretched. Then Benjamin nodded slowly. I'll talk to her. Victoria signed the papers on day 47. I wasn't there. Blake handled the exchange, in a neutral conference room with both attorneys present. Victoria apparently tried one more time to negotiate, to modify the terms, to salvage something from the wreckage. Blake told her no. She didn't take it well, he said when he called me afterward. There were tears, some screaming. Her lawyer tried to argue that the prenup was unconscionable, that the evidence was illegally obtained, that you'd emotionally abandoned her. Standard plays. And I reminded them that in this state, audio recordings by one party to a marriage are legal for evidence purposes. I also pointed out that the forensic accounting shows clear patterns of asset hiding, which constitutes fraud. And I mentioned, gently, That if they wanted to go to trial, all of this would become public record. How did Victoria react? She cried harder. Then she signed. Blake paused. She asked to see you. Said she needs to explain. No. I told her you'd say that. She left a note. I didn't read it until that evening, alone in the house that no longer felt like home. Victoria's handwriting, shaky and blurred in places, tears or haste, I couldn't tell. Logan. I know you hate me. I hate myself too. But you need to understand. I never meant for any of this to happen. I was lonely. You were always working, always traveling, always putting the company first. Nathan was there. He listened. He made me feel alive. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know that's impossible. But please believe that what we had was real. I did love you once. Maybe I still do, in some broken way. I'm sorry. V. I read it twice. The same excuses I'd heard 1,000 times in movies, in books, in the sad stories of broken marriages. She was lonely. I wasn't there. He listened. As if any of that justified giving another man keys to our home. As if loneliness excused fraud and betrayal and calculated deception. I burned the note in the fireplace and watched it turn to ash. The days after Victoria signed were strangely anticlimactic. I'd spent 6 weeks preparing for war, and now the war was over before it really began. She'd surrendered, accepted the terms, walked away with 30% of our assets and no alimony, just like the prenup specified. But the anger didn't go away. It settled into my bones, became part of me, a cold weight that I carried everywhere. Megan noticed first. Mr. Mercer, you've been staring at that contract for 20 minutes. I looked up. She was standing in my doorway, concern written across her face. Megan Torres had been my assistant for 6 years, and she knew me better than almost anyone. Better than Victoria ever had, apparently. Sorry, mind wandering. Is there anything I can do? Keep the coffee coming. Keep the meetings running. Keep telling me when I'm being an idiot. She smiled slightly. The usual, then. The usual. She started to leave, then stopped. Mr. Mercer, Logan. I know it's not my place, but whatever you're going through right now, it's going to get better. You're the strongest person I know. Thank you, Megan. She nodded and left. I went back to staring at the contract. Nathan Cole's world collapsed faster than Victoria's. Internal Affairs received my anonymous package on day 45. The contents were carefully curated. Photographs of Cole's unmarked vehicle at my home address, time-stamped. Hotel receipts showing his presence at the Ridgewood Inn. Documentation of the Shell Company apartment. Nothing that could trace back to me, just evidence, presented neutrally, suggesting that Detective Cole might be misusing department resources. By day 46, he was suspended pending investigation. Derek got me the details. Cole had been called into his captain's office that morning, shown the evidence, given a chance to explain. He'd tried to bluff, then tried to minimize, then tried to shift blame. Nothing worked. The captain gave him 2 choices, Derek reported. Resign immediately and preserve his pension, or face a full investigation that would probably end with termination for cause. Which did he choose? He tried to negotiate a third option. Didn't go well. By day 50, Nathan Cole was no longer a police detective. Allison Cole received her own package on day 46. Just the photographs, no explanatory note. A wife didn't need someone to explain pictures of her husband entering hotel rooms with another woman. She didn't need context or commentary. She just needed the truth. Derek kept tabs on the fallout. Allison moved in with her sister the same day she got the envelope. Filed for divorce within the week. Got full custody of their daughter Emma in a proceeding that lasted exactly 15 minutes. Cole didn't contest anything. Couldn't, really. Not with the evidence. She's still fighting the cancer, Derek said during one of our updates. But the doctors are optimistic. Stage 3, but responding to treatment. Good. She deserves better than him. Most people do. Cole tried to contact Victoria after his resignation. Called her, texted her, showed up at her apartment twice. She didn't respond. According to Derek's surveillance, she told her doorman to refuse him entry and blocked his number on her phone. She blames him, Derek said, surprised, for getting caught. Of course she does. Victoria never takes responsibility for anything. Cold? Yeah. I stared out the window of my office at the city I'd helped build. Yeah, it is. The divorce finalized 2 months later. Exactly as Blake had predicted. Per the prenup, I retained 70% of our marital assets. Victoria received no alimony. She was forced to repay the $50,000 loan I'd given her business, which she couldn't afford. She had to sell equipment and close her office. Her interior design firm died slowly over those months. Word spread in our social circles. Not from me, but from people who'd witnessed her scene at my office, from clients who'd heard rumors, from the inevitable gossip that accompanies any messy divorce. By February, she'd lost every client who'd come through my network. By March, she'd shut down entirely. The Ashfords did what wealthy families do. They closed ranks and protected their own. Benjamin and Caroline quietly paid off some of Victoria's debts, set her up in a small apartment across town, kept her from complete ruin. But the relationship was damaged. Benjamin barely spoke to her now. Caroline tried to maintain appearances, but there was a coldness there that hadn't existed before. I sold the house. Couldn't live there anymore. Every room held memories I didn't want and questions I couldn't answer. How many times had Cole been in our bed? How many times had they laughed about me in our kitchen? I bought a penthouse downtown, close to my office. Clean lines, big windows, no ghosts. Threw myself into work. Won that municipal contract I'd been chasing. Expanded into 2 new states. Megan noticed the change in me. "You're different now," she said one afternoon, setting coffee on my desk. "Harder." "Is that bad?" She considered. "Not bad, just different. You used to smile more." "I'll work on it." Victoria tried one last time, 6 months after the divorce was final. She showed up at my office, but this time she'd made an appointment. Called ahead, spoke to Megan, scheduled 15 minutes on my calendar like any other meeting. I almost respected the strategy. I met her in my office, door open, Megan within earshot. Victoria looked different, thinner, paler, with lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. Her clothes were nice but not expensive, off the rack instead of designer. The Mercedes was gone too, replaced by something practical and forgettable. "Thank you for seeing me," she said, sitting across from my desk like a job applicant. "You have 15 minutes. She didn't waste them. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, why I did it, what it cost me, cost us. She paused. "I'm not here to ask forgiveness. I know I don't deserve that. But I needed to say, I'm sorry. Not for what you caught me doing. I mean, yes, for that too. But for all of it. For taking you for granted. For convincing myself that your success was a prison instead of a gift. For throwing away 12 years because I was bored and lonely and Nathan told me pretty lies. I waited. I'm not asking to come back," she continued. "That's not possible. But I hoped, maybe, we could be civil. Not friends, I know that's ridiculous, but not enemies. Not this Cold War we've been living in." I looked at her for a long moment. At the woman I'd loved, married, built a life with. The woman who'd given another man keys to our home. "I forgave you a long time ago," I said finally. "Not for your sake, for mine." Holding on to anger was eating me alive. Something like hope flickered in her eyes. Then, "But I will never trust you again." And without trust, there's nothing. The hope died. She nodded slowly, gathering her purse. I understand. I wish you well, Victoria. I genuinely do. Build something good with your life. Find someone who makes you happy. Really happy. Not the kind of happy that comes from sneaking around in cheap hotels. She stood. He wasn't worth it, you know. Nathan. He never was. I just couldn't see it. Most mistakes look obvious in hindsight. That's what makes them mistakes. She left. I heard her heels clicking down the hallway, heard the elevator doors open and close. Then Megan appeared in my doorway. You okay, boss? Yeah, I said. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. Yeah, I'm okay. There was one more piece of unfinished business. Rachel Webb, Victoria's former business partner and alibi provider, had distanced herself after the divorce became public. But she hadn't apologized, hadn't acknowledged her role in the deception, had just quietly retreated, hoping to avoid consequences. I ran into her at a charity event 3 months after Victoria's final visit. She saw me across the room and tried to slip away, but I intercepted her at the bar. Rachel. She froze, champagne glass halfway to her lips. Logan, I didn't expect to see you here. I'm on the board now. Benjamin put me forward last month. I smiled pleasantly. Funny how things work out. Her face went pale. I heard about that. Congratulations. Thank you. I ordered a scotch, took my time. Let her sweat. I've been meaning to talk to you, actually. Have you? About those text messages. The ones where you helped Victoria lie to me. The alibis, the cover stories, the girls' nights that never happened. Rachel's hand trembled. Champagne sloshed in her glass. Logan, I was just trying to be a good friend. By helping her betray her husband? I didn't know it would end up like this. She said you two were having problems, that she needed space, that what? That lying to me was somehow doing me a favor? I took my scotch from the bartender, savored a sip. Rachel, I'm not here to threaten you. I'm not going to expose your role in this. What's done is done. Then what do you want? I leaned closer, dropping my voice. I want you to know that I know. Every lie, every cover story, every text message where you laughed about how oblivious I was. I know all of it. She couldn't meet my eyes. I also want you to know that Victoria is exactly the same person she's always been. The circumstances changed, but she didn't. So when she calls you in a few months, and she will, asking you to help with something else, some new scheme, some new betrayal, remember this conversation. Remember what happened to her. Remember what happened to Cole. Are you threatening me? I'm advising you. There's a difference. I straightened, smoothed my jacket. Enjoy the party, Rachel. Give my regards to your husband. I walked away and didn't look back. Derek called me 3 months after that. Got time for some fishing? Always. We drove up to the lake, same spot we'd been going for years. Sat in his boat, lines in the water, beers in hand. Neither of us talked for the first hour. Just watched the sun play on the water and listened to the quiet. Allison Cole sent me a message, Derek said eventually. I looked at him. The wife? Yeah. Found my name somehow, probably through the investigation records. She wanted to thank whoever sent that package. Said she'd suspected for months but couldn't prove it. Said knowing the truth was a gift, even though it hurt. Good for her. How's she doing? Cancer's in remission. She's rebuilding her life, focusing on her kid. Derek shook his head. Some people come out stronger from this garbage. Others just break. Which one am I? He studied me. Hard to say. You won, brother. You protected yourself, didn't let her take you down. But winning ain't the same as living, you know? Deep thoughts for a fishing trip. I'm a deep guy, he grinned. Seriously, though, when's the last time you did something that wasn't about work or revenge? I thought about it. It's been a while. Maybe change that. Go on a date, take a vacation, do something stupid and fun. He cast his line. You earned the right to move on, Logan. Might be time to actually do it. I didn't answer, but I kept the thought. A year after the divorce, I was at a professional conference in Chicago. My company had expanded, the work kept coming, and I'd gotten good at keeping busy. Maybe too good. Derek's words still echoed in my head sometimes, late at night when the penthouse was too quiet. The reception was the usual industry networking. Developers, architects, engineers, all making small talk and trading business cards. I was getting a drink at the bar when a woman slid onto the stool beside me. "You're Logan Mercer," she said. Not a question. I turned. She was maybe 35, dark hair pulled back from a face that was striking rather than pretty. No makeup that I could see, or at least none that showed. Her dress was simple, professional, but the confidence she wore over it was anything but simple. "Do I know you?" "Not yet." She offered her hand. "Samantha Hayes. I'm a structural engineer. I've consulted on a few projects where your name came up." "Good things, I hope." "Interesting things. Mercer Development has a reputation for quality work and impossible deadlines. People either love you or hate you." "Which camp are you in?" She smiled. It was an unguarded smile, nothing calculated about it. "Haven't decided yet. Buy me a drink and I'll let you make your case." We talked for 2 hours about buildings and engineering and the particular satisfaction of creating something that would outlast you. She was direct, funny in a dry way, clearly brilliant at what she did. She'd heard about my divorce through the industry grapevine, but didn't mention it, not pretending it hadn't happened, just choosing not to center the conversation around old wounds. When the reception ended, she handed me her card. "I'm in Chicago most of the time," she said, "but I travel for the right projects. If you're ever in town or if you need a structural consultant who doesn't bore you to death, give me a call." I looked at the card. Dr. Samantha Hayes. Numbers, email, a simple logo. "Professional or otherwise," I said. That smile again. "Let's start with dinner and see where it goes." I flew back home the next morning. Stood on my penthouse balcony that night, looking at the city lights, the buildings I'd helped create, the skyline I'd shaped, the life I'd rebuilt from the rubble of Victoria's betrayal. My phone buzzed. Derek, sending photos of a new boat he was thinking of buying and asking if I wanted to go fishing next weekend. I looked at Samantha's card again. At the city below. At the future stretching out ahead. Victoria had thought she could take everything from me. She'd miscalculated badly. Not because of the prenup or the evidence or the planning, though all of that mattered, but because she'd forgotten the most important thing about me. I don't break, I solve problems. This problem was solved. Time to build something new. I pulled out my phone and saved Samantha's number. The end.